So the Pentagon says it will lay off more than 5,000 civilian probationary workers this week in the first of what officials say likely will be a wave of much larger dismissals at the Defense Department. In a statement, senior official Darren Selnick outlined plans to reduce the department's civilian workforce by 5 to 8% in an effort to, quote, produce efficiencies and refocus the department on the president's priorities. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says President Trump's abrupt firing of the nation's senior military officer, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Air Force General C. Brown Jr., wasn't unusual and was within his right, while also suggesting more firings could be coming. Let's bring in New York Times correspondent Helene Cooper, who covers national security issues. Helene, so what's coming down the pike here at the Pentagon?
Hi, thanks for having me. Well, the Pentagon is sort of bracing for many more firings, both among general level officers. There was a list that was going around on the Hill among Republican Senate staffers last week that included other senior level officers. But then also on the other side of the coin is the probationary employees. You've seen that happen across other federal departments last week. The Pentagon, apparently, workers have been told that there could be as many. We've heard everything from 5,500 to 55,000 employees, probationary, who could be let go. These people are at departments and bases all over the world. As you know, the Defense Department is a massive organization, and so there's a lot of upheaval right now at the Pentagon. People are walking on eggshells. There's still a lot of people seem to be still reeling a lot from what everybody is calling a Friday night massacre last week.
Yeah, Helene, and certainly there's a list that's been circulating in certain congressional committees that has other names of other top military officials who also could be shown the door sooner than later. But I wanted to focus you on the lawyers, the JAGs from all these the different departments who have the branches of the armed forces who are all also dismissed. And we heard from Secretary of Defense Hegseth over the weekend flat out say that they were putting in replacements who would not stand in the way of what the Pentagon and the Trump administration wanted to achieve. Talk to us about the reaction you've heard from military communities about all that.
The JAG thing is, it's probably a much bigger deal, at least in actual practice, than the high-level firings, because these are the lawyers. These are and he's gotten rid of the JAGs for both the Air Force, for the Army, and for the Navy, and that's a really big deal. These are the guys who are on the field, on the battlefield, basically enforcing and reminding American troops about what they call the UCMJ, that's the Uniform Code of Military Justice. They're telling you what is legal and what is not, what's a war crime, what is not. You can't shoot people in the legs. You can't, you can't shoot American protesters in the legs. Now I'm conflating stuff, but they are guiding you, guiding troops so that troops on the battlefield can make sure that they're not violating, they're not committing war crimes. It's such a big deal. But Pete Hegseth has made sort of the JAGs his nemesis. When he was a Fox News anchor, was able to get Trump to commute and pardon Navy SEALs and special ops guys who were convicted of war crimes and removed. And Trump intervened on that at the prompting of Pete Hegseth. You remember that his Senate hearing where Jack Reed went after him on JAGs and on his disdain for JAGs. But this is actually a really big deal, and it goes to the larger point of you have a president now who wants to shape the military leadership and the military itself, but definitely the military leadership in his own image. The whole idea of you want an apolitical military. You want separation of the military from politics. Trump has never really quite gotten that. He looked at the generals in the past, and he looked at the senior leaders of the military as he wanted them to be his guys, and he didn't understand the fact that there was supposed to be, by law and by constitutional mandate, there's supposed to be some sort of distance between the two. They're not an extension of the Republican Party. They're not an extension of Mr. Trump, but he doesn't really see it that way. And you're seeing this play out on a whole number of levels, but particularly when you look at what Defense Secretary Hegseth is saying about JAGS, that's exactly what he's talking about.
All right. New York Times correspondent Helene Cooper, thank you so much. And make no mistake, all of us should understand that so many people in the military, so many leaders in the military concerned about the direction, the firing of JAGS, who actually made sure that the United States was held to standards of international law and standards during combat. Because as John McCain would say, at the end of the day, that protects our troops as much as it protects anybody else.